Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Stennett, the Vice President of AcademyWomen. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's event. We have participants joining today who represent every branch of military service, every duty status from active duty to retired veteran, and from across the United States and around the world. For 2022, AcademyWomen's Career Workshop, which is held as an annual event, will continue to extend its reach by bringing you a monthly webinar series. For those who've attended a past in-person career workshop event, the 2022 series will continue to provide insights from subject matter experts and thought leaders who will share their knowledge on a broad array of topics designed to support the professional and personal development of military leaders, as well as provide opportunities for those in career transition to continue and connect directly with resources and top-tier military-friendly employers. We have an impressive lineup this year with today's guest, USC Marshall's Master of Business for Veterans, and upcoming speakers from Paramount Bank, Amazon, Lighthouse, Travelers, Johnson & Johnson, and more. Stay tuned as we announce new speakers, topics, and companies as they are added. Today, we're pleased to welcome USC's Master of Business for Veterans, a highly acclaimed one-year master's degree in business created specifically for military veterans, active duty, and reserve personnel. Thank you, USC MBV, for your continued and tremendous support of military women and the military community. A special thanks goes out to Jamie Sarr and James Vogel, true servant leaders who work diligently behind the scenes and publicly to ensure military women and men are supported and better equipped to succeed in today's business environment subsequent to their military service. Thanks also to today's guest speakers, who are all graduates of the MBV program and now hold varying leadership roles in the private sector. You'll meet our speakers shortly, but first, I'd like to introduce you to Susan Thieland, who will be your host today. Susan is a U.S. Air Force veteran, a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, and is the founder and president of AcademyWomen. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Susan to the virtual stage. Enjoy the discussion, everyone. I hope today's event will be helpful to you as you navigate your next steps. Susan? Over to you.
Thanks, Jackie. It is a pleasure to be here today and host today's webinar. You are all in for a treat. Before we get started, let's do a quick orientation. Feel free to move your cursor around to find your toolbar. It'll be either at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on what kind of device you're on. Using the Q&A tool, feel free to send in questions at any time. The USC team and I will do our best to answer all of them at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. This will be an interactive virtual event, and we ask you to participate via the chat window by raising your hand and via your participation in polls. At this time, I'd like you to find the raise hand button and select raise your hand. This serves as a simple radio check for me and lets us know that you can hear us. All right. Great. Thank you, everyone. Looks like we have positive comms. Also, I have one more administrative item to take care of, and that is to give you the opportunity to read this disclaimer. So I'm going to pause here for a few seconds and give you a time to read your screen. Okay, it looks like we have the logistics and comms in check. And with that, I would like to dive in and introduce today's panel moderator. Moderating today's panel is Professor Kathy Takayama from the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business. Professor Takayama is a US Navy veteran and served as a naval nuclear power instructor. Kathy retired after 20 years at Hewlett-Packard, most recently as Chief of Staff and Operations Officer for a large business unit. She's a lifelong IT and R&D project and program manager leading worldwide teams. She's teaching MBV from USC Marshall School of Business. Before I turn it over to Kathy, just a quick note to our webinar attendees. We'll be sending out a couple of polls during the event, and we appreciate your participation as it helps to target our conversation. Now, just as promised, I am going to send out a poll right now. So go ahead and tell us who you are and your status so that we can better tailor our comments. Great. All right. Thank you so much. Professor Takayama, I'm going to turn it over to you and your panelists. I look forward to rejoining you a little later for Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here. So our panelists today, first is Vanessa Bolognese. She's a U.S. Army veteran, a 2019 MBV graduate, graduated in my class. She currently serves as a registered nurse performance improvement consultant at the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. Sasha is a U.S. Navy veteran, go Navy. She's a 2021 graduate and currently serves as a senior associate for KPMG. And Genji is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, a 2015 MBV graduate, and currently serves as a real estate developer and an Airbus 320 pilot, and she also flies for United Airlines. And Angela Scott, she's one of our newest graduates. She's a U.S. Navy veteran, 2022 MBV graduate, and currently serves as the personalization and content manager for Demonware. So let's hear from each one of these ladies a little bit more about their background and how they got to where they are today. So first, Angela, I'm going to start with the most recent graduate, Angela. So Angela, you just graduated this past spring. Tell us kind of what brought you to where you are today as a user experience specialist at Demonware.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think everyone has a journey, right? So ideally, you know, I'm one of those who grew up in a large family and up in Silicon Valley in San Jose before it was actually Silicon Valley. I'm kind of dating myself for a minute. And my whole idea of going into the military was I didn't want my family to take on my college debt, right? So I was like, oh, I'll join the military and go that route. And so I ended up joining the Navy. I became a religious program specialist from there. And I was still trying to, of course, take courses, you know, junior college level, right? And work full time and the whole thing. And, you know, eventually I stayed within the military for 8 years. I was there for Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So I am dating myself. Don't do the numbers though, everyone, because I look way younger. And so anyways, after transitioning from the military, I went into banking for a moment, assumption loan processor, still really wanting to pursue, you know, education. And I was up in the Pacific Northwest, made it back down here to Southern California. Long story short, ended up at California State University, Northridge. I attained a bachelor's in honors English, went into writing, worked at a magazine company for several years as an editor, published countless articles, went into editing books, and then transitioned from print publication to digital. So I ended up at Activision Gaming Company. But my whole thing is, having had all of that background in publishing, I didn't have the background in business. And as I transitioned up into, you know, the business world and as a manager, I wanted that foundation. And I came upon the MBV program from two coworkers who ended up being my classmates. So that's how I ended up in the program. Long story short, and it's one of those things, no regrets. And so here I am.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela. Welcome. And congratulations too at just graduating this past spring. Next, we have Sasha. So Sasha graduated a little over a year ago. Tell us how you came to be not just a consultant at KPMG, but a senior consultant at KPMG.
Yeah, can you see me okay? I was having a little bit of camera difficulties, so I hope it's working.
Actually, I don't see you. Maybe on the stop video, show video button.
It looks like it should be up and running. very odd.
Oh yeah, we did a nice check before, and it was before, huh? Yeah.
Hmm. I see me, so that's why I was wondering.
Okay, so we don't see you. So here's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip you,
Just
Sasha.
get me and I'll roll.
Yeah.
I'll try something out here.
Okay. And I'll go to Vanessa. So Vanessa was one of my classmates. So we both graduated about 3 years ago. Congratulations on your recent promotion to a manager position at the VA. Tell us a little bit about how you came to where you are today.
Hi, so good to see you, Kathy, and hello, everyone. So I am Vanessa. So my story starts, I joined the military when I was about 19. I was in college, but I knew I just wanted to do something different, and got a wild hair, joined the military, joined the Army, became a combat medic. I spent 4.5 years there, and I spent over 27 months in Iraq, actually in combat. And I ETS'd as a sergeant in E5, and I then went to nursing school. I got my bachelor's in nursing, got my RN license, and I still wanted a little taste of the chaos of the military life. So I went and worked at the emergency department in Compton. That was my first job. And my goal, though, was to work for the VA. And I finally got my foot in the door at West LA campus. And I worked in the emergency room there. That is where I heard about the MBV program and attended while I was living in LA, and completed that and landed a job down in San Diego, where I am now. Nursing supervisor position, which is also called house supervisor or bed control. It was a huge jump for me. It's something that I did not expect to come so fast, but it was awesome. It's real-time logistic planning, staffing, and patient flow throughout the hospital, as well as emergency management. Basically anything that happens in the facility, we had a hand in. Then the pandemic started 3 months after I started that role. So I really got to exercise my emergency management and, kind of crowd control and all of that, as well as my nursing supervisor role. So we were incident commanders as well. Really proud of the way the VA handled that. We not only were managing our veterans, but we were also taking care of community patients as well, COVID overflow non-veterans in our facility. It was really great logistic improvements came out of that, as well as telehealth we had already been performing. So we didn't lose a lot of patients. So that was really amazing experience. Then I did that for about 2 years and moved on to my current position in consulting. And what I specifically do is the accreditation piece of performance improvement. So I basically am the liaison between each of the different accrediting bodies that accredit hospitals. I'm sure you've heard of some, one being Office of Inspector General, that's because we're a DOD, and then also the Joint Commission that accredits all hospitals, and there's also some rehab facility and long-term care accrediting bodies as well.
Wow, so you've accomplished a lot in the small 3 years since we graduated.
Yeah.
So nice job. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And let's come back to Sasha. I can see Sasha now. Welcome, Sasha. So Sasha was one of our MBV graduates that lived through our pandemic year of MBV. So there was 1 year when we were not in person, and Sasha survived that. So congratulations on surviving, Sasha, and excelling after you graduated. So tell us a little bit about your background to get you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with a group of very strong women. So let's see, I graduated, or actually finished my Navy service in 2018. I was in a project manager role for engineering projects. So I was mostly focused on doing humanitarian aid projects in the Pacific, so Cambodia and the Philippines. In 2018, when I left, I transitioned to a business role working for the Cleveland Indians baseball organization, now the Cleveland Guardians. So I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, and was working on data analytics and business development, so mostly in the corporate partnership role, so very heavy business role there. And then I was compelled to return back to public service. I was missing public service, so I pivoted and was accepted into a fellowship program through Congress, more specifically the House of Representatives. And I worked for a veteran and a member of Congress who was looking for someone to work on federal legislation, specifically with IRS, so a lot of tax policy, and also as a congressional liaison with DoD representatives and our counterparts there, as well as the VA. And so I was working out of Santa Barbara, California. So luckily I left the cold and returned back to sunny California. And while I was in California is when I really decided to pursue a business degree. So I found the MBV program and was thankfully accepted and started that on my last year of my fellowship. So both my fellowship and graduation happened in the same month, which was perfect timing there. And I transitioned to my current role. So using my background, I was able to hop into a more of a leadership role in consulting at KPMG, which is, you know, a massive Big Four consulting firm. And currently I work in federal advisory. So I manage technology projects, manage development teams for various federal agencies, such as HUD, the Department of the Navy, the State Department, and currently I'm on an engagement for the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency. So a little bit of a different role. It seems like every project we have, but really enjoying my transition from MBV and happy to be where I am. And I currently reside in Arlington, Virginia.
Oh, nice. Hey, next time I'm gonna look you up, Sasha.
Absolutely.
My buried at Arlington National Cemetery. My father's there, so we go back once in a while. So I will definitely look you up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
congratulations on your accomplishments. So very impressive, very impressive. And then we have Genji. So Genji is our how should I say, is our most senior graduate, maybe? So she graduated with cohort 2. So back near the very beginning of MBV, we are now coming up to cohort 10. So we're coming up on a decade of MBV. So it's very cool that we have someone who's been around for a long time after graduation to tell us all of her accomplishments. So Genji, tell us what brought you to where you are today and all these pilot roles and stuff. You know, tell us your story.
Well, thank you for having me today. I apologize for the way I sound. I'm recovering from COVID right now. So if I sneeze, I apologize. Yeah, Genji Martinez. I currently am still in the reserves. I'll be retiring after 27 years this fall. So I'm looking forward to closing that chapter. If, you know, it's kind of a bittersweet, I suppose. So I'm a pilot with the military. I started flying when I was 16 years old. So that was something that I've always wanted to do as a young child. And then, like I said, started flying when I was 16. I did my undergrad in Prescott, Arizona with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. While I was there, my junior year, I joined the Air National Guard. It was kind of a fluke. I think like Vanessa had said for her as well, like, but I met somebody who flew for the Air National Guard and I went out and toured and the base and just love the idea of flying in that different capacity, whereas my original goal was to fly for the airlines. So that brought me into the military. I started out enlisted because I was told the best way to get a pilot slot was to be prior enlisted. So I did that and I turned wrenches, or better known as a crew chief, on KC-135s, which is an air refueler. And then I finished my degree, was selected for pilot training, and by a turn of events, I ended up just crossing the street, like we say, from the Air National Guard to the Air Force Reserves on the same base. I've been at March Air Reserve Base in Riverside, California for all 27 years. I flew C-141s and then C-17s for the last 17 years. And I've just lived my dream, like traveling around the world. I've got over 600 combat sorties, over 8,000 hours of flight time with the military, and been to 83 countries. So done quite a bit, made amazing friends and colleagues throughout the world. And, you know, everything was going great. And then I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And, you know, that kind of stops everything, right? Your world is kind of on hold for a moment. And I'm here, so I'm well. March of 2012, so 10 years this year, I celebrated my anniversary tumor free. But that kind of makes you reflect on stuff and on life in general, and then your career and future of your career. So I was first focused on one, saving my wings, being able to continue flying. And I was able to do that. And then, you know, the reality sets in. The airline industry and even military flying is predicated on your medical, as well as it being a cyclical industry. So, you know, everybody has to have a contingency plan. And I found that I really was not diverse enough. If I couldn't keep flying, if the tumor just come back, or if the FAA or the military wasn't going to allow me to fly, I needed to figure out something else to do. And everything I'd known since I was 16 was focused in the aviation industry. And wanting to diversify, I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And when you don't know what you don't know the right answers to, you don't know the right questions to ask, I guess, at times. And I figured the best place for me would be going back to school and kind of figuring it out. So I looked into law school. I was looking into the MBA programs at USC and a couple of different schools. And I had a friend who was at USC doing the full-time MBA program. And that was at the time that the MBV was in its first cohort. So she had told me about it, and I met with James, and, you know, I was coming up on 40. So it's like, you know, time is of the essence. You don't want to necessarily spend a whole lot of time back in school trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So it was attractive to me that this was a one-year program, and it had the USC background on it, and the Trojan family, which I'm familiar with, which I can expand on later. But that's how I ended up here in the MBV program, and I'm still pretty actively involved with the MBV and the board of counselors. And through that, I started my own business, DRM Properties, and that was just kind of navigating through the different programs and clubs and alumni associations that USC offered. And through the help of a lot of mentors, I was able to not really find, because I had a passion for real estate and I had rentals in the past, but they really helped me kind of hone in leveraging my passions with some existing knowledge that I already had. And so through that, I connected with several different organizations. And so I help with some nonprofits that are developing housing for transitioning veterans. My husband and I have transitioned into doing our own rentals into the Airbnb business. So kind of have my hand in a little bit of different aspects. And so, and I'm still flying and in the military, like I said, retiring this fall, which I'm excited about, but I've been flying for United Airlines for the last 5 years. So still living that dream, and have my contingency plan now.
Wow, I love that story. I mean, I love that you've overcome the brain tumor. So congratulations on that and all that you've accomplished.
Thank you.
Yeah. And look, that one, you know, sometimes something terrible happens and people look at it negatively, but for you, you took it and it totally, you know, opened up your life to so much more. So congratulations on all you've done, not only the flying, but the properties. I'm a big Airbnb fan too. So yeah. So thank you for sharing your story. I'm glad you found MBV to help you with that.
Thanks.
Okay, excellent. So our topic today is veterans pursuing business education as a pathway to leadership in the private sector. Each of you is selected from this for this panel because you chose to pursue a business degree. What made you choose a business degree, the business field and a business degree? So Vanessa, let's start with you because you're one of these people that was a medic, you're in the medical field, like why business?
So funny enough, my application essay, the very first line, I knew that it was going to be like, okay, healthcare, you're a nurse, like you already have a career, like what's going on here, right? So the very first line was, healthcare is a business and business is booming. And this is pre-pandemic. And I was very conscious of the fact that even, you know, at the VA, you know, it's about veterans in the community, but I would be remiss to say that it's not a business, right? And it functions just like a business. So I knew then, while healthcare is incredibly rewarding and I very much enjoyed being an ER nurse and I was really good at it, while I was considering moving into leadership, I realized quickly that there were barriers to my understanding of how healthcare as a business runs. And I knew if I wanted to lead and influence change in healthcare, I was going to need more than just a focused nursing degree. So.
Nice. I'm glad you did. Congratulations too on where you are today. So, and making an impact at the VA. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Angela, what about you? So why did you pick MBV and a business degree?
Wow. So I think, kind of really even going back to what both Vanessa and what Gingy said, pivoting, right? Knowing the power of pivot. And I think especially during the time of COVID, right? And for me, like I said, I had rose up the ranks. I really built out when I was first hired at Demonware. I was the only web content author. And then I actually built up my team and through that became the manager of it. And then it expanded into personalization, which is A/B testing and all of that. But here I am in all of these various meetings, but I still felt like in order for me to really think out the box and be just as innovative and be able to do some true ideation with my fellow colleagues, I needed to have a firmer grasp of business from an analytics perspective, because I worked with data analysts, strategists. I wanted to be able to have that foundation to speak to finance, to speak to accounting. And it was this kind of program that offered that. And so it was just a no-brainer for me at that point, especially being able to tackle the MBV program in 1 year, versus traditional 2-year program. So that's really, those were the two verticals for me in that.
Yeah, that's why I always tell my friends who are considering this program. I feel like anyone can suck it up for 10 months, right? Just get through this program in 10 months and you'll get all the rewards out of it. Yeah, I love this a 10-month program. Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. So since all of us are veterans, can you share how your military background helped prepare you to go back to school for business and how it helped your career in the private sector after you got your degree? Let's start with Sasha on this one. Sasha, tell us.
Yeah, happy to. So as I mentioned in my intro, so I was doing this project manager role and kind of seeing these humanitarian aid efforts come to light. And one of the things that I found, which was near the tail end of my military service, was that I was exposed to so many foundational business practices. So finance, negotiations, accounting, and those, I was doing those things day to day, but I wasn't necessarily trained or given, the higher education that maybe you would want to take on those roles. And while it was easier to do in the Navy, right, because we always get the job done no matter what, as I was transitioning to the civilian sector, I found myself longing to have formal training in those skill sets. But that initial spark and interest in business really came from my role as a project manager in the Navy. So what I found was one of the biggest hurdles that I faced was being able to articulate my background and skill sets in the civilian sector, in that corporate business world. And so sometimes, I found that the jargon that we have, right, it doesn't translate, and it's really hard to kind of walk through the mud, if you will, of explaining to someone what I did in my past and how it could apply to them and their business. So that's really where I started to pivot and look for that business degree opportunity. And so when I found the MBV program, and one of the things that was the biggest impact on my life was just MBV was able to take my skill sets and really clean and refine some of the skill sets that I had, build upon that foundation. And then upon transitioning out of MBV to this role that I have today, a lot of the lessons learned are completely applicable from my Navy days, but they just sound different. They look different, they feel different. And the confidence that comes along with that MBV gave me allowed me to be successful today. So those business fundamentals are there. I learned them in the Navy, but MBV helped me refine those skill sets to be successful.
Yeah, so true. So true. It translates all those Navy skills into to successful business careers too. Yeah, very good. Hey, Angela, do you have anything you want to add to this one on how your military background helped prepare you for business school, as well as help you prepare for your professional career after that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think, you know, just what everyone said, as far as having that discipline, right? Learning to stay on mission. I think that's what really, really helped in that regard, because, you know, through my position in the military as a religious program specialist, I worked with chaplains, and that was really gave me a strong foundation in administration, right? In budgeting and finance. So it was those having that background in that helped set a foundation, but I wanted to build upon that. And again, you know, like everyone else said, it was just having that, also having, you know, like Gingy had mentioned, as far as having the project management background as well, that really led in that. And that has also helped me in my career, as far as having a strong project management background, you know, where a lot of times I would say folks who, more civilians who don't always have that mindset of stay on mission, you know, learning to make concessions, learning to make sacrifices, having a contingency plan. All of these things that we learn in the military really weighs in on how we behave in the business world. And so I think all of those things really greatly contribute to who we are and how much we can contribute, you know, to corporate society.
Yeah, I wish a lot more companies understood kind of the value of hiring veterans in general because of that, right? Is that it's better than everybody else, right? Because of all of our background. Yeah, I agree. Nice job. Thank you, ma'am. It turns out that all of us decided to get our business degrees from the University of Southern California, USC, in this program, which we call the Master of Business for Veterans, MBV. Why did you select this school? So I'll start with Genji. Why did you select this school and this particular degree? Genji.
Well, for me, I kind of touched on it, and a friend let me know about the MBV program and that it was just a year long, but I have a family history with USC. There's 7 kids in my mom's family. They grew up in the Los Angeles area, and 5 of them graduated from USC, 3 with master's degree. And so I grew up a baby Trojan. Would have gone there if they had an aeronautical program. But anyway, so it's kind of been in my blood, I guess, for several years. So I'm familiar with the Trojan family, the networking opportunities. And so, like I said, I was looking into different degree programs, and I was looking into the full-time MBA program, and then was introduced to the MBV program. And again, like a 1-year program is way better than 2 years, especially when, you know, like I said, I was almost 40 at the time. So time is money, right? And so that was appealing to me, but really it was just having the opportunity to not only get that degree and build my business acumen, but have that Trojan family and network behind me.
Yes, excellent. Got lots of siblings. Lots of siblings that went to USC. Very cool. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What about Vanessa? Vanessa, why did you choose USC and MBV?
So I don't have family that went to USC, but being a SoCal native, you know, I always looked at USC as being completely out of reach. So it wasn't, you know, I wasn't associated with it in that way. You know, I'm like, that's where academic elites and rich people go, right? Like I'm okay just being a sports fan, you know, go Trojan football. But, you know, interestingly, at the same time that I was recognizing my lack of business acumen, a friend mentioned the MBV program. And at that point, I was like, no way am I going back to school after what nursing school did to me. No way am I doing that again. And he was like, no, you don't understand. This is so different. This is the only kind of program of its kind. And it's so amazing that USC is doing this. And, you know, I went ahead and did some research, and I really became aware of how dedicated USC is to the community and to women and to veterans. And I just really, really loved that community aspect of just being associated with USC. Also, of course, the network, but that kind of came after. But I just was really intrigued. And at the time, like I said, there was no program like that, especially at a college of USC stature. And I believe that there's not still, which is really surprising.
Yes.
Apparently it was brought to UCLA. The idea was brought to UCLA initially, and they turned it down, you know, and no slight to UCLA, but USC picking it up and being so enthusiastic about it just really won me over. So that's why I chose it.
Me too. Yes. You're right. We're still the only, top end university that has this program that's for veterans only. Yeah, veterans and activity only. So yes, I'm excited to be here. Excellent, thank you, ma'am. So now that we've talked about getting to this school. Oh, I want to mention too. So the two people that just spoke, they both said that they were kind of from Southern California, but you don't need to be from Southern California to go to the University of Southern California. So we have lots of people that travel from all over the place. So when I went, I was coming from Northern California, so I commuted in for each of the class weekends. I had classmates that were coming from Louisiana. Another classmate came from Florida every other weekend. And I even had a classmate who came from Hawaii every other weekend. So it's not just a Southern California school for Southern California people. It's a school for everybody from anywhere. And like Vanessa said, we're the only one that offer this degree for veterans only. So yeah, thanks for sharing, you guys. Okay, now let's talk about once you're in the program. So let's talk about challenges that you had getting through business school. Although MBV is a program for veterans, it's not a handout for veterans. So it's not easy. It's a lot of work. But because it's a lot of work, then when you actually get through, you pass, you get a degree, then it's very rewarding, right? But with that, there's challenges academically, but maybe additional challenges beyond the academics. So Angela, tell us about any challenges you had while you were getting through the MBV program.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So for me, full transparency, along with working full time, I'm a single mother, and I actually I'm a public service officer within Santa Monica, the city of Santa Monica. I'm a commissioner for our public safety reform and oversight, as well as I hold state roles through I'm just going all out through the California Democratic Party. I'm on the Veterans Caucus as a corresponding secretary, as well as appointed to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Standing Committee for the state of California. So I have stuff on my plate.
All then, huh? Wow.
I didn't sleep. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But learning how, what does work-life balance, which is really work-life harmony, mean? And understanding again that it will pay off, right? And I had to, and I think everybody else will, create those type of partnerships through your support system, your family, your friends. Hey, can we arrange pickups and drop-offs, right? So establishing that. And then at the same time too, I had a really good arrangement with my company, because this is a win for them as well, right? They are sewing into you. They are investing into you, because you'll be able to come back to them as someone who is more rooted and grounded, not only in, like I said, project management and all the business acumen, but you'll be able to think from a leadership perspective. So I got buy-in from my company as well. Like, these are the things that you get concessions and your overall benefits, the ROI at the end of the day. And I sold it. Yeah. And so, like I said, so having said that piece, it was just understanding what that balance was going to look like, and having those folks along the line, folks that you wouldn't even imagine, stepped in and said, oh, yes, you're pursuing that. How can I help? What do you need me to help with? And all of that helped in getting me through the finish line, and I'll go more later, but again, establishing that strong connection with everyone, letting everyone know where you are, and everybody checked in. I checked in with everyone else, and it worked. But my family, they understood, because they knew at the end of the day, this is something that I wanted. This is something that was going to benefit us as a family as well. And you know, you look at all what the ROI is on every realm.
Yeah, I like that you kept everybody else informed, your family, your boss, and they recognize the value of you getting this degree. Yeah, so then they're more open to you, missing every other Friday. I love that. Excellent. Thanks, Angela. That's good advice for people too who are thinking about this program or any master's degree, right? Any advanced degree, is that this is not just helping you, it's helping everyone around you. So everyone should be supporting you. So good one, Angela. Good one. Genji, what about you? Challenges, getting through the program or anything around the program?
Yeah, I think the challenging part is that it is an accelerated program. So it's, you've got basically less than a year. And I had to make that conscious decision as well as the fiscal decision to actually not work as much so that I could take advantage of everything that the program and the university have to offer. So especially as being a pilot and in the military, you don't always come home as scheduled. Like something can happen on the road, and there's group projects and different events throughout the week that I wanted to be involved in. And so I made that decision to not work as much and be able to be on campus to take in the different opportunities that the university afforded all of us. And so like I said, there's a ton of alumni organizations that even as a current student, or at the time a current student, that they welcomed me into those, and I would go to their events. I would go to the on-campus club events and really trying to dig in deep and figure out what my trajectory was going to be and I was going to go with my career. So that was a challenge. That was a financial decision that I had to make to really take hold of all the opportunities that USC and MBV program had available to us. And I think it worked out well. Invest in yourself is really what you need to do.
Yeah, I think sometimes as women, we think of helping everybody else instead of thinking of helping ourselves, but this is investing in yourself. And I love that you took advantage of all the campus stuff. So I wish I would have talked to you before I went to MBV, because I didn't do very much of that, taking advantage of the groups on campus and all that kind of thing. So I think that's good advice too. Yeah, nice job. Nice. Yeah, because the USC Trojan family, they're famous for their network. And so Genji really took advantage of that by meeting so many more people on campus.
Yeah, and it's amazing. If you go on the website, you can see all the different clubs. So pretty much any career field that you can think of, there's a club for it and an alumni association attached to it. And then other things that are just more broad, like women in business. So it doesn't mean real estate or nursing or whatever. It's just women in general, just networking and helping each other. And it's that network that's really huge. I would even LinkedIn stalk people and try to find that commonality that we had, whether it was we were both veterans or maybe had the USC, and just reach out to people. And I'd say about 90% of the time, people would respond to me. So it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Yeah, we have this thing when we graduate from USC that we say that if a Trojan calls you, Trojan will always help a Trojan. So, and yeah, like the stats Genji's talking about, it's true, right? Trojans will help Trojans. Nice, nice. Okay, as veterans, we've had to work in a very male-dominated field. According to the DoD, as of 2021, approximately 17% of our active duty military are female, and just 10% of our veterans are women. Additionally, many of us have continued in other fields that also have more men than women. I was in high tech, so there's way more men than women. How did MBV bolster your skills to manage that dynamic? Let's start with Sasha. We haven't heard from Sasha in a while. Sasha, tell us. Now, you were telling us you were in the Major League Baseball Indians program, so that's probably mostly men, right? Like,
yes, that's right, Kathy. The ratio is even more dramatic than the military. So the military did set me up for success there, and not necessarily having a lot of women surrounding you, but baseball was to the extreme. There were many, many days where I was one woman in a room full of 30 men. So something that I noticed was that, unlike the military, though, that difference was more noticeable to me. It was more of a culture shock. And part of that has to do with the fact that, you know, you're transitioning. It was my first job out of the military. But I think that initial culture shock is part of the reason why I looked for that education component, because one of the things I found you could do is, you know, in addition to the curriculum that MBV provides, which is business-based, there are other classes that actually are more, I guess, more introspective. Like, what work can we do onto ourselves in addition to being a business professional and learning additional skill sets? What can I do to help that culture shock in joining a community that is dominated by men? And so some of the classes that were impactful for me were leadership class, which again is a lot of introspective work and just working on group dynamics. So the MBV class, you know, there are statistics out there that'll tell you what makes up an MBV cohort. We had an amazing cohort with diverse people from every sort of background. Obviously, everyone's in the military, so the diversity is already there. But that interaction and group dynamics is honestly pivotal in trying to learn how to manage group dynamics from a corporate setting, which is not something that you learn when you're in the military. I think the military can sometimes be a bit crass, right? We're honest, we're brutally honest, but that doesn't work, you know, in the civilian sector. And there are a lot of skill sets that you'll learn through negotiations, communications, again, leadership class, and to kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, I understand that there are dynamics everywhere in the world, but how can I utilize the skill sets to make it applicable without coming off as the veteran who's a bit too honest sometimes? So you don't want that to overshine what you're really bringing to the table. So that's how I kind of made myself more comfortable and confident in those situations post graduate school.
So very nice, nice. Genji, at United Airlines pilot, like this sounds like a very male-dominated field. Tell us about how MBV has helped you be successful.
So I have an interesting story because as a female pilot, I told you I enlisted in the military as a crew chief. I was the only female crew chief in my squadron at the time. I went to pilot training in 2001, and I was the only female in my pilot training class. I went to a university where the guy to girl ratio was 9-1, and then came back to my squadron, and for almost 5 years was the only female pilot in my squadron. So you have to kind of learn to navigate just that in your career, right? Not just like the military aspect, but just from a micro level in the career field. And then going on to United Airlines, where we've got the industry's leading highest percentage of female pilots, which is 8%. So I'm happy to be part of that. So I've learned through the years how to deal in a dominated field, male-dominated field, and that is a lot has to do with preparation, right? Building respect from your peers, and that's by being prepared. And so going into a new field, it's like I had that confidence of who I was in my career field, but now I have to translate that to another career field and not let my my insecurities, if you will, or my lack of knowledge always show. And MBV really helped me with that on the confidence level. I mean, Sasha hit that pretty hard in terms of like how to translate those skills. So, you know, the start of the program, if someone asked me like, Genji, what do you do? And I'd say I'm a pilot. I go from A to B, point A to point B. But it really helped me learn, no, I'm more than that. I'm a leader. I'm an aircraft commander and I'm an instructor. I'm in charge of this airplane and everything behind me in the cargo bay. And basically those are my customers, all those different agencies that we're working with and the cargo and the people that we're moving, those are my customers. And so I started looking at the years of experience and what I did from more of a business perspective and a leadership perspective, and really recognizing that I had all those interpersonal relationship skills and dealing with these diverse backgrounds and different agencies. And so once I was able to recognize that I had all of those soft skills, and that's what MBV helped me do, then I was able to plug and play that into, my new career field. And with the help of the mentors that I gained through the MBV program, I mean, I really was I wasn't afraid to ask for help. I wasn't afraid to say, I don't know everything. And that's okay. And recognizing that that's actually okay. You know, rely on your resources, use your resources, find your resources. And MBV really helped me with that. And so here I am 7 years post-graduation. And I just this last fall, when I was looking to buy another property, I reached out to a couple of my mentors and they would go through performance with me. And so even still to this day, throughout the years, I call on those mentors that I've gotten through the program to help me kind of walk through different scenarios. And they've also helped me with dynamics in some of these organizations that I've gotten involved with. So it's, it was a very positive experience for me. And again, I can't emphasize more the importance of learning to translate your skills, because that's where that confidence that comes from. And that helps you feel more prepared and knowing, hey, I can do this. It might be different, but I have those skills to plug and play.
Yeah, that's very good. I love that you took your background, that your background didn't change from before MBV, right? But you took it and you just spoke of it differently, you translated it differently, and it's so much more powerful. And that makes you a more powerful person, just be able to explain it differently, right? So that's awesome. Awesome. Angela, you're on mute, Angela.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to jump in real quick too and mention that among all of the programs we have within MBV, we also have a very strong career placement program, which this is really going to be good for those who are transitioning, you know, out of the military, where we do take you through interviewing, preparing for jobs. We have a career placement counselor who brings in recruiters from various disciplines across workspaces and engages them. They are specifically there to hire veterans. And I think this is something that we definitely need to highlight as well, as we have that placement for our students. And maybe Kathy, you might know the statistics behind how many are hired, but I know even in this last cohort, several of my friends were hired into very good agencies and firms.
Yes. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a big emphasis on everyone getting to not only getting a job anywhere, but to get to their dream job, right? So excellent. Oh my goodness, we're getting close to running out of time. So I'm going to kind of let each of you guys speak out in whichever order you'd like. Maybe just briefly tell me what was the most impactful for you out of MBV, and a brief tip about any tip you want to give to any of our listeners today. Anyone want to go first? Otherwise, I'll call on you. But
I'll go first.
Okay, Vanessa, thank you.
Okay, so the biggest impact MBV made for my transition, you know, my situation was a little bit different. I had already been out of the military for about 10 years, but when I started the MBV program, I hadn't realized how much military mindedness that I was still carrying with me, you know, and for the better, really. It was great to collaborate with everyone in the program while sharing ideas and experiences with all different kinds of levels of leadership with my peers and with USC leadership. It was during MBV that I really rebuilt my confidence in my leadership skills, and I built my network, and I was able to land the roles that I'd only been dreaming about. So a little tip, we've kind of touched on it in the past, or, you know, during this call, in my opinion, building and using your network to not only discover new opportunities, but to help others do the same is the simplest, yes, yet most impactful and rewarding thing you can do for not only your career, but for yourself. It's a life thing. Networking is a life thing. And I always say also, as women, we are natural born networkers. We've been doing this since we were born. So we are even more well equipped to do this, you know. So USC really touches on that. Being a veteran touches on that. And it just kind of brings everything together, and you're just meant for greatness at that point. So thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
Excellent. I don't want to jump in next, or should I call on you?
I can take this one.
Angie, go for it.
I think I have two things I would say to take away from the program. First was a lesson that I learned through the career services, and forgive me, I can't remember who is the professor that runs the career services, but for me, I wouldn't be afraid of not knowing what you want to do. Be there and be open-minded to it. And don't necessarily get stuck in a function, like thinking that, you know, I did X in the military, so that applies to whatever function that is in the outside. So what I learned through the career counseling was to reverse engineer it, meaning think about the things that you love and write a list of those. What are the things that you're interested in? Is it the outdoors? Is it, and I'll give you an example that was given to me. There was a gentleman that loved coffee, apparently was like a coffee connoisseur. And so they said, okay, you love coffee. Well, why not look into working for a coffee company? What is it that you love about that coffee? And, you know, so just kind of break it down. Don't get so wrapped up in the function, and, you know, find the organization and then find the function within. So, you know, how can you leverage your passions and some of your skills into a career field that you love with an industry that you have some sort of passion for.
Yes.
And the second thing I would say is begin with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself at the end of the day when you're retired and with your family? Is it out of state, or, you know, where is that, and what do you want to have? And then kind of work backwards and what are the steps that you need to take to get there and accomplish that end goal?
Nice.
Thanks for having me in here. This is fantastic, and this advice just goes across all industries. So one question that has come in, just in the interest of time, I'm going to throw it out there. We have a participant who's a 68 AS in Business Administration, BS in Industrial Technology, MPH in Environmental Health Science, and PMP, Vietnam era vet. Can she qualify for the MBV? And I'm gonna ask this question of Kathy: who should apply, and what is important to keep in mind when considering whether or not you're eligible?
Yes, so the main criteria is you have to have 3 years of service, whether that's active duty, reserves, 3 years of service, and as a veteran, and you have to have a bachelor's degree. So if you have those two things, all of a sudden you're eligible, and what the heck, throw in your application, right? The age group of our applicants are anywhere from, you know, just out of high school, 3 years of service, jump right in, like mid to early 20s. And then we have, when I went through, I'll tell you that I was almost 60. We have people that were older than me that were going through. So full gamut of age. Everyone can benefit from this, and, you know, transition your career no matter what it is, whether you're going from military to something else, or for me, I was going from a whole career, 20, 30 years in a business career, to something else. Yeah, so it's for all of us. Okay, Susan, did you want to jump any more questions, Susan? Sorry, we had too much great stuff to share, Susan. We didn't leave very much time.
You did, and I didn't want to interrupt, but in the interest of time, I know people are on a tight schedule here. I wanted to share the points of contact for the program as well as the website. Please go ahead and put in your application. They have extended the deadline for participants of this webinar. And in the chat, you'll see additional points of contact that you can reach out to. I'm going to go ahead and thank the USC team for participating. You all were fantastic and incredibly humbling, I just have to say.
I want to say thank you to you guys too, because USC and Academy, we've been partners for a few years now, and this has been an awesome partnership. So thank you so much for inviting the MBV to do this webinar.
Our pleasure. I really feel like it's such an incredible opportunity for our veteran community. And I think the biggest challenge is just getting the word out there. Coming up next month, we have a real estate investing seminar. So please go ahead and join us. This is part of our webinar series and will be held Thursday, 21st of July. You can register now on our website at militaryals.org webinar series. And you'll see that as well as other upcoming events. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and formally end the program. If you do have questions, please reach out to our team, and we can forward it on to our panelists or to the program leaders so that we can get your questions answered. And again, this was a fantastic discussion. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.